104.5, the team joined by the man who has brought one of the meanest teams in the history of the NFL to this small screen, the 85 Bears. Jason Hehir joins us, the 30 for 30 about the Super Bowl 20 champion Chicago Bears. I mean, this team, to say dominant is probably just the worst use of the word dominant because they were way more than that. Why were the 85 Bears special to you, Jason?
Well, I was 9 years old at the time. And that's right in the sweet spot of when you start kind of really understanding how the leagues work and how the playoffs work and how standings work and all that. So this is right when MTV and ESPN and all of those networks were just starting to come into their own. So growing up in Boston, I was strictly a Patriots fan, but I started to hear about this team from Chicago, and then they're on the cover of SI 3 times in one season, and they were on ESPN, it seemed like every night. And I just became fascinated with them as so many of us did across the country that year.
Like, I remember it myself. I'm right around the same age, and I'm Ditka. What was it about Ditka that, you see him now, that doesn't work nowadays, right? When you look at that coach, Ditka, on the sideline, that guy doesn't get it done nowadays, does he?
I think a lot of times, you see coaches like that and they burn out because players buy in, but they kind of flame out after a few years. Harbaugh comes to mind, and I'm not saying he's not a good coach, but just that kind of attitude these days with these kind of players, it works for a little bit, and then when the results start to fade, then the confidence goes, and that's that. A guy like Belichick is, more of a blue chip stock of a coach, than a guy who comes in guns blazing like that. But Ditka was exactly what that team needed at that time, and he's a major, major part of the documentary, obviously. The
director of the 30 for 30 about the 85 Bears joining us, Jason Hehir. He's also an Emmy Award winner, my other favorite 30 for 30 about the Fab Five. Great to have you with us right here on 104.5 The Team.
We're heading out to the Super Bowl, and the guy I want to meet most is Ron Rivera. What was he like as a player on that 85 team?
Ron was more of a role player on that team. I mean, he's one of the guys that, it's interesting how many coaches that team spawned, and it's a testament to Buddy Ryan and to Mike Ditka that these guys all studied at the foot of these two great men, these two great coaches. So you have him, you have Leslie Frazier, you had Mike Singletary, of course, who's trying to get back in the league as a head coach, and I really am rooting for Mike to do so because he's a wonderful, wonderful guy. Yeah, Rob was on that team, and he's in a lot of the shots. You'll recognize him in a lot of the shots in the doc when the team is grouped together in the meeting rooms, but he wasn't as much of a superstar as the other guys were.
We just got word that last week that Mike Singletary actually interviewed with the Giants to be the linebackers coach. I mean, can you imagine what in your mind as a guy who's broken this team down behind the scenes and all that? What would Singletary bring to that Giants linebackers core?
Singletary would bring an immense amount of discipline and immense amount of the amount of thought that goes into everything this guy even says. You can't help but be inspired by him. So whether it be the Giants or whether it be the Bears or whether it be, with the Niners again someday, I just would love to see him get back into the league in some capacity because he's one of the most impressive guys I've ever met.
Jason Hehir joins us here on 104.5 The Team. The 85 Bears debuts Thursday, February 4th, 9 o'clock on ESPN. What was your favorite moment filming this documentary?
So many, man. I mean, we shot for 6 months, so it was great to be able to meet some of these guys who were just kind of, they're statues basically, and then you get to sit down with them for 3 or 4 hours and they become human beings. I would say that Steve McMichael, who I knew of obviously as one of the guys who was the core of that defense, I had no idea what a character he was. He's probably the greatest character I've ever had the pleasure of interviewing in my 17, 18 years in the business. Going down to Aiken, South Carolina to spend the day with Fridge, not thinking we would ever get access to him, was pretty incredible. Going to Buddy Ryan's horse farm in Kentucky with Mike Singletary to watch them break down some game film and just spend some time together. This is like almost a father-son relationship between those guys. It was great. We went out to Arizona and spent a couple of days with Jim McMahon, followed him to the doctor to show some of the neck treatments he's getting and how he deals with post-concussive disorder. There's just so many moments that we were really, really lucky as a crew to be able to film.
I'm sure some of those great moments didn't make the movie. What did you have to cut, if anything, that you really wish you could have kept in?
There was a lot of game action that we couldn't put in there, just because there's a certain allotment of footage that the NFL allows you to use. NFL Films is pretty tight with their product, and it's understandable why. So we had a 101-minute film, and we were allowed to use 12 minutes of footage. So something like, say, the 84 game that the Bears played against the Raiders, which was a pivotal game in the development of that 85 team, in terms of the win that they had over the defending Super Bowl champs and the lacerated kidney that Jim McMahon suffered. We weren't able to include that game in there because that's about a minute and a half of footage, and obviously a minute and a half out of 12 minutes is footage at a premium. So there was some of those things we didn't get to put in. I mean, we did a whole section about Mike Ditka and his importance to the city of Chicago that we had to cut. We went golfing with Tim McMahon. We had to cut that. We went to the Otis, Steve McMichael, and Dan Hampton have a band, and they routinely play gigs in Chicago. We went to one of those gigs and shot that. We weren't able to include that. So it was supposed to be an hour and a half doc, and we pushed it to 2 hours and got clearance from ESPN to do 2. And there still was a lot of stuff on the floor. It's just a testament to what kind of a team those guys were.
The 85 Bears, a look at maybe the most famous football team of all time, will air Thursday, February 4th, 9 o'clock on ESPN. We've been, dealing with the backstory of this Super Bowl. Is Cam Newton a villain because he's flashy and he's all, he's all over the place? We drew the comparison to Jim McMahon. So if McMahon's a villain, Newton's a villain. Do you see that comparison?
No, I love it. I really enjoy watching Cam Newton play. I love any guys that clearly enjoy what they're doing. It's all entertainment. I'm talking to you right now because this is going to be on your radio station and people are entertained by sports. So it's not to diminish the accomplishments of a guy like a Barry Sanders or a Walter Payton. Certainly those guys who are less flashy and just more kind of elegant and graceful. Not that Cam isn't graceful, but I love seeing guys who enjoy playing. I was a huge fan of McMahon back in the day. I was a big fan of Deion Sanders. I'm a huge fan of Randy Moss, guys like that who you could tell how much they enjoyed playing the game, how much fun they were having. So yeah, I have no problem with Cam Newton at all, and I think that the comparison is justified.
Jason Hehir joins us, got behind the scenes on this 85 Bears team like nobody's business. Buddy Ryan, the defensive genius on that team. We've got Rex and Rob Ryan together in Buffalo. You think they can get it done?
I don't know if they have ever coached together. Certainly at the pro level, I don't believe they have. And Buffalo is formidable, man. It's just that they happen to be in that division with the Patriots. It seems like a foregone conclusion every year that it's the Patriots and then someone fighting for the wild card. But I know the Patriots always have a tough time when they go up to Buffalo, and not an easy place to play up there. So they have now some offensive talent, and clearly the defensive genius is in the DNA. So I wish those guys the best.
Jason Hehir joins us. The 85 Bears comes out Thursday at 9 o'clock on ESPN. You've also got the Emmy Award for the Fab Five. What's next for you? What's the next great sports story you're working on?
I don't know, man. I grew up in a sports family, so we're constantly, that was kind of how we connected as my two brothers and my cousins and my parents and my aunts and uncles, and everybody was in Chicago actually with me for the premiere a couple of nights ago. And we were primarily a baseball family. All of us played baseball, and I haven't done a baseball doc yet. So I'd love the opportunity to do something like that. But otherwise, just looking for a cool film to do down the road.
Fantastic. Jason, I know you're going to be in San Francisco next week. Hopefully we'll get a chance to run into each other, talk about the film right before it debuts on ESPN. And, who knows, maybe enjoy a beer or two over the 85 Bears.
Hope so.